Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 Claw, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my can use November, go. 1 Charlie, Charlie. Neither do I. And 8 5, this is 7 November, Charlie. 8 5, right now. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, reference to your last, you're Brandon 158, extra 5 cross, 1200 between teams, that's local. Also request your unit take outbound message to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 for pause at the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that.
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf. My unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Hey, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 Claw, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go.
Hey there, thanks for making it to the live event with, well, there's 3 of us here, but I think we're actually on 4 different channels and maybe even other places, who knows. So welcome to Veterans Info Tap, the Civ Div, VA Housing, Education, and Veterans Daily, and who knows where else. It is the 3 of us, and we like to do this together because it gives a well-rounded, no pun for David's head, well-rounded situation here for all of us. It's finally I get to be the funny wise guy because usually it's Clay cracking old guy jokes at me. Yeah. So with that, we are glad that you made it. There are a lot of moving pieces and things seem to be inching closer and further and closer and further, ebbing and flowing. And we need to stay on top of things for multiple reasons. 1, because it might affect you. 2, because it might affect one of your brothers or sisters to your left or right, which is equally important. And 3, the more that we're paying attention, watching videos like this, hitting the thumbs up, that type of stuff, it shows the elected officials and appointed officials out there that we are paying attention. Believe me, there's plenty of loud groups out there, and veterans, well, we're not quite the loudest sometimes with the things that we want and desire with regard to our benefits. So doing this is kind of in my way of thinking is many hands make light work, and together we can protect and preserve what we have. With that, I'm going to shoot it over to Clay. Clay, please let us know kind of some of the folks that you see on there, since Clay has well, got a little glaucoma going on, so it's a little bit hard for me to read things. So Clay, I don't want to wear my glasses, so we'll kick it to you.
You know, I know you have the eye issue there because we've talked about it. I never put 2 and 2 together as to why you can't read the chat. That makes way, like this whole last 2 years of doing Veterans Day together, I'm like, oh, I should know that. Yeah,
So,
sorry.
so just for folks out there, so they don't think that I'm completely crazy, I can read. It's just that I have and it's service connected, by the way. Recurrent iritis from mortars, actually firing mortars. Something flew out, got me in the eye, cut my eye open, and it was crazy. And then now it's just this. I can best describe it like a cold sore that kind of just comes back every once in a while. Usually after stressful moments or just fatigue, my eyeball gets all funky. It's like a snow globe, kind of, by the way. It took me a long time, Clay, to stop waving at things that weren't there. So, yeah, now I just ignore everything. So, whatever. All right, back to you.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's start off with some new members. All right, 101 Spectre, Trevor Stos, and David. Thank you very much. We have another one too, Natasha. I can't see who you're a member of, but if it's a member of one, we definitely appreciate that. And then we have Fiesta RC Yachts, like a remote.
Sounds like a party.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to assume you mean aid and attendance, available for the veteran's wife. You're probably talking about caregiver, not necessarily aid and attendance. Aid and attendance, or that housebound, or homebound for the veteran on the SMC scale. Caregiver, something totally different. But yes, it can be for whoever takes care of you, right? The giver of care. And then Natasha, thank you very much, sis. Thank you for all you do for us veterans. With I know you can't see that, Jason, because you're blind, but it's a little emoji face that looks like this. Kind of looks like David, actually, because it's
thanks.
And it has no hair. But hey, we have David Piatek with us. Go ahead and open up with some changes that you see for veterans and housing stuff. I can tell you what I've seen on the TikToks.
Yeah,
I downloaded TikTok.
On the TikToks.
If you put an S on everything, it's funny. Not a good idea, by the way. But from what I've seen is people's homes aren't selling. That they're on the market for a long time. People are overpricing them, and no one's buying them, probably because they can't buy them. Even if they qualify, they still can't buy them. But I see that happening on the VA disability side, Jason. The advisory board that we did a video on last week, that was for August, scheduled September 4th, except we can see the agenda, and they took out the VA SRD people. And so I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Go ahead and kick that can down the road. But that's a whole conversation. And of course, we're just speculating there. But David,
yes.
Why can't we buy houses? Right?
You can buy houses. Listen,
house 2 months ago. It's beautiful. I couldn't.
The juicy house of yours? The juicy house?
Yes. Well, I could do it, but it wasn't smart. So can you just tell us what in the world is going on?
Yeah, well, let's start with a little bit of positive news. So I wanted to give you guys some numbers for reference as far as veterans utilizing the VA home loan. So in 2024, 416,373 people utilized the VA loan, either refinancing into lower rates, cashing out, or purchasing. And yes, Clay, it seems like the market is slowing down, because it is, and I did a recent video about it. But last month, 46,179 veterans utilized that VA home loan. So people are still using it, and veterans have the greatest opportunity in becoming a homeowner because the VA loan is so flexible with its credit requirements, income requirements, 100% financing, tons of benefits that go with that, especially if you got VA disability. At certain ranges, you don't have to pay property taxes. So why the market is shifting is because the very thing people wanted to happen has happened. They wanted more inventory available. So in some markets, you have more inventory than buyers, right? So now that teeter-totter basically becomes a buyer's market. So now buyers have the upper hand, and they're like, well, if there's 10 homes that I could potentially make an offer on, why would I be going at the list price on 10 different homes where I can go in lower? So it's just supply and demand, which, again, a lot of people were scared of, that people wouldn't sell their homes ever because they have 2% interest rates. And what are they going to do? Well, it's called life, right? So typically within a 5 to 7 year cycle, people move, even though they tell me, like, I'm going to live here for 30 years. And then 2 years later, David, we're moving. Like, what happened? But that's going to be life. And that's why we're seeing those markets open up, more inventory because people want to move. And then now we're just either starting to see a slowdown and people are not realizing that, hey, we should be dropping prices. But even in markets where you see a shift downwards, like what is it, Texas, Florida, seem pretty big price drops. But listen, people are still buying in those markets. So it's good for consumers. Bad for
You know,
good for buyers, bad for sellers.
and here's the thing, it's also microclimates, right? Different states, where Clay lives just right outside of DC, it's going to be very expensive.
It's dumb.
Right? It's just dumb. So veterans out there who are making sure that they are properly rated, right? Making sure that not everybody's going to be 100%. It's just that's the way it is. But being properly rated should actually be like the must for every single veteran. Getting properly rated is huge. Secondly, if you're thinking about moving to another state, start looking at some of these prices, the values, how much can you afford there? Maybe even taking a pay cut with your job, a different job, right? Taking a pay cut and going to another state with your VA disability and house prices being lower than where you're currently at, you could come out ahead. These tax exemptions that you talked about, David, also a huge, huge aspect to saving money. I think that for veterans, it's two things. It's what can I do to drive more income, revenue into my household, whether it's VA disability, whether it's educational benefits, housing allowance, whether it's Chapter 35 for the spouse, driving money in, and then it's also saving money. Now, one of the other changes, though, real quick, because I know we're going to bounce all over the place here, which is what this is all about. One of the changes that people need to be aware of that has happened, and Clay, this is going to go to you after I say this, and I want because you're so good at just the gray cloud doom and gloom, I want you to take the reins after I say this, okay? So what we have now in effect is the VA's opening of community care even more. They've done two things now. One, they've eliminated additional approvals. So now it's just your first line, your primary doctor can sign off on you getting community care. Awesome. The second piece that they've now done is they've opened it up for like 30 different conditions to be able to essentially be approved for community care for up to 30 days, or excuse me, not 30 days, 30 conditions up to a year, Now, this is great today. This is, I love this. And I hope you remember the conversation we had, Clay, because this could be a slippery slope, according to you. And I think that you have some valid points. So I really want you to share this with the folks.
Yeah, when it comes, so community care is awesome, right? It's great for those who live in the inner city, like I do, because there's a VA in DC, there's a VA in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, there's a VA in Fredericksburg, and I'm sure there's other VAs around as well, right? Because there's so many veterans here. And so in the inner city, there's a time criteria. So although I'm proximately close, there's a time criteria that will allow me to go to community care, which is great. All right. I think community care is also good for those who live in rural areas. That word always crushes me every time I try to say it. I had a speech impediment when I was growing up for R's. And so you can just imagine what that word does to me, my psyche at least. Anyways, I think it's really, really good for those who live out in the middle of nowhere. The issue is we are seeing a decrease in VHA, right? In employees, in I want to say like employee morale. No one at the VA feels great, okay? And so for me, in my case, my primary care, it's not that she sucks. I just don't like her. In her defense, I don't like any doctor really. And I think that's just a veteran thing. And so if I had the option to see community for primary care, I understand that's not the case. That would be awesome, right? On the flip side, my neurologist is the complete opposite. She is great. She's amazing, easy to talk to. And that's also like there's neurologists don't grow on trees, right? And so now I am seeing her, and I would rather wait to see her than see some random person and explain everything all over again, because it's a downward spiral from that, right? But in the event that she leaves because there's more money on the outside, whatever the case may be, doesn't matter. In the event that I'm forced to use community care versus my choice, right? That is where I think community care is bad. We don't see that happening now. However, looking at all the talk on, there's all kinds of feeds you can go where VHA employees are talking to each other. Long story short, no one's happy. Okay. No one feels great at work, and they can make more money on the outside. And the VA is kind of incentivizing this and saying, hey, we're going to pump money into the community. And so if my neurologist leaves, one, I'm going to be super butthurt. Okay. And then two, if I have to go see a community care neurologist who's not as good, I'm going to make so many videos about how community care sucks. I just can't.
Right.
So I think it's very situational. Okay.
Yeah.
If my primary care at the VA was awesome, that would be great. She's not. And so I think it just depends on who you have, where you're located is a huge one, big factor there. And then like how this is an honest question I think veterans need to ask themselves. How much do they really put into healthcare? Right? Because it's exhausting. Right. You have to make appointments. You have to show up to appointments. And the doctor, the VHA is there. And how many veterans don't use them for healthcare? How many veterans make an appointment and don't show? I've done it. Okay. To be honest with you, right? And
they
so
text you to confirm.
Yeah, I've confirmed and then be like, I'm not going to that. For instance, I had a vertigo therapy treatment, which basically they make you nauseous and I vomit. And I just wasn't feeling it that day. You know, I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go get dizzy and puke. I'm not going. And so there's so many factors involved where community care is really good and community care is really bad. And I think it's extremely situational. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think that we need to really highlight this simple fact. And then I got a question for David. Well, a lead up for David. So I think that when it comes to community care, it's fine as long as we get choice in it. Once it becomes to the point of the VA says, okay, well, your next appointment is here and it's in the community. And you go, well, wait a minute. I wanted to go over here. I wanted to go to the VA. Oh, sorry, that's not, you don't get to. You have to go here. There is no option. That's where the issue lies in the event that happens, right? Is when they take our ability to choose away. And it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope out there for folks because, you know, a lot of us want our cake and eat it too. But if you're not utilizing your local VA, then you're not utilizing it. Multiply that times thousands of people. And if there's thousands of people not utilizing your local VA, well, eventually they go, well, we got to cut back on staff because we can't, there's no supply and demand. It's not where it needs to be. So, David, on the idea of healthcare, some veterans, as we age, there are more and more, or there's more and more emphasis on healthcare and quality healthcare for whatever the conditions that we have. And in a lot of cases, they could be service connected, and or at least they're covered by the VA if we have a high enough rating. And we want to, you know, make sure that we're making the right choices. So in some cases, and I've seen this happen, hey, I'm moving to this state, to this specific area because they have the best medical facility for this specific treatment that I need. So when folks are looking to purchase a home, let's say here's my scenario, and then you could walk us through it. I currently own a home. It's got a VA home loan on it. I want to move out here and buy another house, and I don't really have time to sit here and sell mine. I'll sell it later. I hardly owe anything on it. I've had it for 20 years. And I need to move over here so I can start getting the care and treatment that I need. And eventually I'll sell this house. how can I purchase another home with my VA loan if it's already being utilized? Is my question to you.
So good question. I think there's definitely a couple things in there. And Clay, I'm on the opposite end. I use the primary care and I love it where I'm at. But they also give me community care, which is actually pretty nice. But yeah, when it comes to having multiple VA home loans, there's technically no limit on how many VA home loans you can have. Now, there will be a limit on how much entitlement you have. So then basically currently in 2025 across the country, the max entitlement you have, unless you're in DC, then it's like $1.2 million. It's 806,500 because high cost areas have higher limits. So essentially, if you bought a place for, let's say, 306,500, you would still have 500,000 left to buy another property with zero money down, and basically a departing residence can be offset with like a rental market analysis. So it makes it really easy to do that. Now, a couple of considerations. One, do you want to hold two properties? But a lot of times when people have these lower interest rate, lower mortgages, they can actually offset the new mortgage with the money they're making from the current residence they're in. So that's positive. Two, I want to touch on something we talked about earlier, which is your VA disability rating and your property tax exemptions. Lately, I've been talking with a lot of people. So thank you for everyone out there that's reached out. There's confusion around how this property tax break works. A lot of people assume that just because I'm 100% PNT, whatever state I go to, I get an automatic full tax exemption. And that is 100% not correct. It's based on the state, and then the county can have an overlay on what the state says. So you really got to know those benefits. And to your point too, some states you may move to and you may not have to pay state taxes. Right, so you may actually gain some for that. So that's kind of a big picture piece. Now, if you're interested in doing something like this, because that's a great idea, Jason, you guys can feel free to reach out to me. Down in the description, there's a link to actually schedule a call with me, and I can help you actually use the VA home loan. So
it sounds crazy whenever you mention moving to a different state because of benefits, but I'm not kidding. And you don't have to say the name, David. One of my friends, we worked together. It's weird. He stayed in my basement. It's just a weird backstory there. Anyways, he asked me where he should go. Right, I helped him with VA disability stuff, and I was like, man, Huntsville is up and booming in our line of work. At that point, it was like electronic warfare and cyber and space stuff, very nerdy things. And Huntsville's a hub for that, right? And Alabama has really amazing veteran benefits, and their housing market is not the DC area. Let's just say that, okay? And so this dude, not single, by the way, married with 4 kids. His wife was not working, single home income, moved from DC, his whole family, bought a big house, like an Alabama big house, huge yard. And he's still living there, and he went through David for that, and his kids, I think in Alabama, don't quote me on this if you're watching this from Alabama, but I'm pretty sure if you have state residence for 5 years, you rate Alabama's in-school state tuition as a 100% PNT veteran. So his kids not only get Chapter 35, but they'll also get that in-state tuition waived. And it's just like, think about it. On your VA disability only, is there a state that you can move to where your kids can go to school for free? We're talking about generational debt gone there, right? And so it sounds crazy, but people do it, and it's never too late.
Yeah, and to add to that, some states, like in Illinois, if you're 100% PNT, the veteran gets 4 years, an additional on top of your GI Bill. The spouse gets 4 years, plus the kids get 4 years of college each. So it's pretty crazy. I didn't even know about that till the other week.
It's huge, and you know, you made a good point, and I'm going to just double down on what you said earlier, David. You got to look at each state specifically with regard to their tax exemptions. Then you have to look at the county, because the county could have some sort of weird additional levies or what have you. So there might be little variances. But the last that I saw, actually on an article through the Military Wallet, that came out earlier this year, 2025. It says that the states for the full property tax exemption for folks that are 100% disabled are Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Hawaii, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, and Wisconsin. So there's 14 states. And look, this stuff changes all the time in the different states. So every single state has its own menu of veteran benefits. Some are stronger in some areas than others. Maybe one state has really good property tax exemption, while another state has really good educational benefits for the spouse and children. It's just they're all over the board. And the way that I look at that is the states are actually vying for veterans to reside in their states. And the reason why is because we bring in billions of dollars in federal money into the state, and then we spend it there because none of us are good at saving our money. So we spend it and it gets taxed at the local, municipality level. So, the top 3 states, and then I'll kick it to you, Clay, to see if you have any questions that you found in the chat. The top 3 states, Texas, California, Florida, bring in disability compensation alone. So not retirement, not housing allowance, not educational benefits, not pension, disability only, over $30 billion a year in those 3 states in disability compensation. And it's getting spent in those states and taxed in those states in that way. So the states, believe me, they don't want you to leave. So they try to do what they can to attract you and retain you. All right. So what you got for us, Clay?
Yeah, not that many questions actually, but I do think Philadelphia just added themselves to the exemption list.
Nice.
Within the last few months, I want to say. Someone in the chat spot check that, but I'm pretty sure Philly's on that list now.
And what state is that?
I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was just gonna let it go.
Once I said Philly, I was like, dang it.
You're like, something doesn't sound right. Something doesn't sound right. Yeah.
Why don't we just say PA?
Yeah.
Anyways, I do want to talk about the change in the changes for mental health, tinnitus, sleep apnea. There's some neurological, like radiculopathy, general rating formula for Parkinson's, things like that. I know we were pretty much in agreement that it's happening soon. I don't think that's the case anymore. The VA SRD Advisory Committee just basically recused themselves of the advisory board committee meeting, which I think is so weird. And we know that by the agenda that was released. And so I do think this can will be kicked down the road once again, unless they're having some secret, private meeting. Right. Which reminds me of
real quick, Clay, let's speculate on the when this could happen and the why. Let's just do a quick, before we dive into what's actually changing, let's talk about let's just speculate for a minute on when it could potentially happen and the why behind it.
Yeah, so October used to be my number one. After the recent change to that meeting, I don't think I would bet money on that. So the Fed reg's going to update to April 2026. That's when GERD and IBS change was in that second quarter of the calendar year there.
Right.
And so that definitely could be a change. And then we could find ourselves exactly where we're at right now. And what is it? August? It's still August of 2026. Right. And so I want to say next year would be comfortable, but then again, that's really not saying much. I just don't think it's going to happen soon, just based on that. Now, to be very clear, the VA can do whatever the VA wants to do. These are VA changes. It doesn't take Congress at all. It's pretty much the VA secretary signs off on it, and the analysis is already complete. That ship has sailed. It's pretty much just kind of sitting there. There's a few things that need to happen, like training on the VBA side would be huge. Training on the new criteria, and then parsing out guidance on effective dates, right? Those two things
Right.
have to happen before the changes go into effect. And I
Yep.
don't think it's going to happen in October anymore as of
Okay.
a
So
few days ago.
yeah, nice. So for those that don't know, there's an advisory committee that specifically looks at rating schedule stuff for the VA, and this is what's changing is rating schedule stuff. So they had a meeting in August, which was when it was supposed to go into effect, and then that got canceled. And then did they have one actually set up in September, Clay, or no?
Yeah, so the meeting's happening in September 4th and the 5th. It's 3rd or
Uh-huh.
4th or 4th and the 5th.
Yeah.
But the VA SRD board is not there
Portion
anymore.
of it has been removed.
Yes.
Got it. The only part that mattered.
And the VA secretary isn't speaking. So both
Fair.
of those
So
have
I
been
mean, it's all
removed,
garbage. Yeah,
which
yeah.
is what we need. Yeah.
Totally. So now I'm going to just throw this out there. And look, for those that say, don't be political or whatever, first of all, being political doesn't mean that you have to be partisan, right? You could be bipartisan and have a political conversation, and that's fine, which veteran issues should be bipartisan all the time. But putting a political lens for a moment, I think might give us maybe, I don't know, another way to speculate on what's going to happen and how it's going to affect us. Keep in mind that the rating schedules, like Clay said, these are done at the VA level. Most of the time, all this stuff is just VA. It has nothing to do with Congress or anything like that. But like any good citizen, anything that goes into effect under any specific administration is because of that administration. It's just the way that we view things, which is good and bad. It's just weird. But whatever. So these rating schedule changes that we're talking about, which are neurological, mental health, auditory, and respiratory, are the four rating schedules that are being impacted here. This process started 2.5 years ago. It happened in the prior administration, and it's not anything other than the VA is actually updating all of their rating schedules. So they're about 3/4 of the way through. It has nothing to do with whatever party's in effect, in my opinion. This is just the bouncing ball that's moving. However, I believe from the political standpoint, you can step on the gas pedal a little bit, or you could pump the brakes a little bit with implementation of things, because we as Joe and Jane public like to say, this bad thing happened here or this good thing happened here, and it's because of this. So, hey, let's wait. If it were me, if I were the president of the United States, bipartisan Jason here, what I would say is, hey, look, let's hold off until after the midterms, and then let's roll that out, because there's more bad news in there than good news. And really, let's just pump the brakes on that. Let's run it through. Let's wait for another year and 4 months, and then we'll implement it. We're not going to bleed out because we're delaying this that much longer, in my opinion. And I could be way off, but I think that there's a lot of strategy in politics. And because the VA is a part of the cabinet for the administration, I wouldn't be surprised if there were those types of strategic conversations happening. Your thoughts, Clay and David, on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Seeing the VA SRD and the VA secretary be removed and the can be kicked down the road, it tells me one thing, that it's not a priority, right?
Right.
We
For whatever the
know,
reason.
we know tinnitus and sleep apnea are bad. I'm going to die on the hill that the mental health changes are bad. And that's just going to be the way it is. But regardless, overall veteran increases will decrease. Like that sleep apnea at 50 is a big punch to newer veterans, right? And so that tells us it's not a priority, which then tells me they're not really looking at VA compensation, at least as much as the internet is telling us that they are, right? So I think everyone can breathe.
Call. Yeah, good call.
Relax.
Wow, and coming from you, Clay.
That's a good one. I wasn't even doom and gloom. Okay.
So positive.
David, from your VA home loan perspective, okay. First, I have 2 questions for you. One, do people call you and ask you VA disability questions?
No.
And then two, do they ask you specific questions like, hey, I want to, refinance, or I want to purchase a home, but I'm waiting on these changes because they think they're going to get a higher rating, which, for the record, I want this to be clear, I don't think that's going to be the case for anyone.
Yes.
So you're waiting for nothing, in my opinion. I
All
know
right.
people disagree with that. I'm just want to throw it out there.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
To echo that, it's what we've always said since I've been on there is that the VA loan seems to get better and better, and VA disability seems to get worse and worse. So you don't want to wait to file for your disability because of these changes. So yes, Clay, people do make the mistake and do actually schedule a call with me for VA disability, but it's actually, you should be scheduling with me for VA home loan. But I do actually talk to a lot of veterans about VA disability that don't come from you guys' channels, because we want to be able to promote that education. The second part is that yes, there's actually a shockingly large amount of people I've talked to recently that are on that cusp of like, hey, I'm at 80, 90. And I'm waiting for my decisions to get to 100. Like, I've already started the process, right? They're not waiting, they're in that process. And a lot of times it actually makes sense. But the challenge is that if you're waiting for that and you don't get it, then what happens to that opportunity, right? Over time, it's not like home prices just magically decrease. Like, yeah, right now we may be going through a phase, and it depends on the micro market that you're in. If you're like up north, the home values continue to go up. If you're down south to the west, values are going down, plus Florida and Denver. But those markets are just adjusting, right? And plus, we're going into that season where we're going to start seeing values drop a little bit. And then definitely over the wintertime, we're returning to a normal market, right? People were just used to price just increasing every day. And as of this year, or as of July of 2025, we've seen the lowest increase in home prices since 2012.
Wow.
Right? So that just shows you the slowdown we've had. But again, it is anticipated to happen. And so for some people too, Clay, it's about, home ownership isn't just about, hey, I have zero money in the bank, I have my disability, and I want to buy a house. You want to have reserves, right? So some people are waiting for, hey, I'm going to get back pay from the VA.
Right.
I want to pay off my bills. I want to pay down my credit, and I want to use part of that money to become a homeowner. And it's not like everyone's buying $1 million homes. There's plenty. I mean, I just talked to someone today buying an $80,000 house, and it's nice. It just depends on where you want to live, right? That's all it comes down to.
Not the DC Metro.
There's nothing under $1 million in the DC area. I want that to be clear as day.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It is.
That's crazy.
But I want you to know, like, in that market, right? We'll talk to people, and you got dual government employees making $400,000 a year total. But so it's it's just a little bit different depending on where you're at and the opportunities you have. But Jason, you touched on a pretty important subject that does affect home ownership. Two of those things are your education benefits, and the other is your healthcare. Right? Having VA healthcare is, and I've talked to a lot of people recently too that didn't even realize they qualify for VA healthcare. One, there's times where you're paying $1,500 if you get a family for healthcare. So if you can offload that or take that step towards getting VA disability to the point where you can get Champ VA or something, that's takes a load off for you then to take that money, either use it towards savings, use it to pay off debt, and become a homeowner. And the other part is education, right? In theory, the more educated you are, the better job you get, the more money you make. So you can utilize those benefits that you have to put yourself in a better paying position. Now, no, you can't use school benefits like BAH for school if you're out of the service to qualify for a home loan. A lot of people think you can do that. You can't. But the positive part is that once you finish school and you have an offer letter for a salaried job or guaranteed hourly, you can use that income right away to qualify. So from college to home ownership, it's actually a pretty fast cycle for veterans.
Now I know you have something you want to say, Clay. Do you want to go before me? Because I got a great question for him.
Yeah, I do. I'll talk all day. No, I'm kidding. What it reminded me. So I did reach out to David, true story, about 2 months ago to talk about that juicy house, which, by the way, we drove by it when we went to my friend's house, and just in envy, it's like, okay, don't make
You made the right decision, Clay.
You could have bought it, but it would have been dumb.
Mm-mm.
That's a whole other video topic. We should do that next time. But when I was talking to David about it, when looking at Virginia's property tax exemption, it's not unlimited. There's a limit. And then Fairfax County also has their own. And then he said a comment like, oh yeah, also this something rates, you would also be paying a portion of property tax. And that immediately I was like, property tax? Do you know who you're talking to, dude? You know who you're talking to? No, I'm kidding. But like, that's a factor, right? Like, there's all these things. And so that is why I jokingly say it, but whenever I say, what was the tagline? A veteran's
a lender for the veterans.
A lender for the veteran. Thank you. Okay. Nice. There's truth in that, because no other lender is going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, you're 100% right. Like, David's a veteran. He understands exemptions. He lived in my state for a while, and so he knows what's going on up here. And him telling me that was enough for me to be like, okay, it was already a bad idea. Now it's a really bad idea. Right. Yes. So just things to think about. That's why you need, if you have a question, just reach out to David. He can absolutely help you go through purchasing a home, or tell you, hey, you can do it, but it's really dumb. That's essentially what he told me. And I was like, fine, dude. But the house was cool though. But
it was definitely juicy, as you say. And I'll add to that, Clay. We've had a lot of people reach out recently, and to your point, like, I will break it down for you. Like, there's no fee. People are like, should I be paying you for this? And I'm like, no, you don't have to. You don't pay. Because a couple of things. One, if you're in the early stages and you're thinking about 6 months to a year out, just schedule the call. Let's take a look where you stand today and go over what your idea is. And the other part, Clay, is that sometimes just because you could do something doesn't mean you can do it. Because if you could barely buy a home, you shouldn't buy one. Because if something happens, you could put yourself in a bad financial position. And then most people badger people. And we're just here to just like educate you. And I'm sure people could drop in the comments that have talked to me in the last 2 weeks. And just before that as well. But just like that, we give an honest answer like, hey, don't refinance. It's not worth it. Yeah, the rate may be lower, but look how much you're paying to do this. So just providing that clarity to folks.
One of my favorite quotes. I'm sorry, Jason. This will be the last thing I say. I told you.
No, take your time. I got all day.
One of my favorite quotes is from Jay-Z. Okay, he says, "If you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it." I'm telling you, if you live by that rule, dude, your life will be so much better. Now, stubborn, dumb me did not live by that rule, but I am now. Okay, so I can't buy the house twice. That means I am not going to move. That's all I got. Jay-Z.
Yeah, but awesome. But you know where to drive to look at it. So that's
I do. And
at least it's
staring at me.
Yeah.
It's not a gated community.
It's a castle.
Did they let anybody in there?
It's a castle.
Jeez. So here's my question. We talk a lot about the higher levels of compensation and how that money can be used to help purchase a home. And, we've talked before, not this one, but we've talked before about how it's tax-free money, your disability compensation. Therefore, it's grossed up and you actually get, 125% of that value for qualification purposes. And all these things are great. But that only represents about 30% of veterans. Only about 30% of veterans are actually service connected for something, meaning that they're receiving disability compensation. So I'm gonna preface it with this, and then I want to get your lending standpoint, reasoning behind it. 70% of veterans are not receiving disability compensation. Anybody who is receiving it understands kind of how it works and would probably agree that way more than 30% would actually qualify for something from the VA from a compensation standpoint. So I'm going to throw this out there to the 70%. If you cannot find a competent and credible accredited veteran service representative to help you understand what you could possibly qualify for, what it looks like, and go down that road. We're here to help you as well. Clay and I started evidence-based VA claims. Reach out to us. David, why is it so important that veterans get service connected when it comes to their VA home loan?
So a couple things are factored in. One, the VA actually charges a fee to use the VA loan called the VA funding fee. Now, if you have a 10% or greater rating, that gets waived. So Clay, like to your point, if you're in $1 million area and you put zero money down and you've used the VA loan before, and so it's subsequent use, you would pay a 3.3% fee. So that's $33,000 that you would pay to the VA to use your benefits.
Huge.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of people that have that. If you're not service connected, or you feel like, hey, there's just nothing here. Okay, it is what it is. But I think there's a lot of veterans that can benefit from that.
One second. I didn't know that. You're telling me for a veteran with an honorable discharge,
yep,
has no relationship with the VA, either healthcare or BVA, VBA, excuse me. They have to pay money to use a VA home loan.
Yeah. So the way it works,
is that wrong? Like that, that's wrong, right?
It's not for
so
me
that's
to
how
decide.
that's how the VA. So
that's
how the VA. That's how they've established their housing portion of the VA. They pull those fees in, and it helps to fund that group of individuals.
Video title coming in. VA screws veterans. Here's how.
Well, listen. The VA actually pays for itself. It's one of the only government that actually makes money. Okay. And so they basically self-sustain themselves.
Oh, it's so fun to watch his face.
I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't know that.
Yeah, if you don't have that, so even if you have a 0%, you got to pay. That's why it's so important. Like if you're going through that home buying process, and like I said, last month, 46,179 veterans used the VA home loan. Okay. So as long as you filed your disability or your intent to file prior to closing, okay, and then 2 years later you get your disability rating 10% or more, you contact the VA and they literally will send you a check back, like in this example, for $33,000, and then you can split it between the three of us to thank us for the information. So, but yeah, so like that's how it works. So you really have to
have
be
a follow-on question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm totally just inserting myself. What about active duty service members? Do they have to pay? Like, did I pay to use my VA home loan in service?
Yes, unless you're currently serving and have the Purple Heart. Otherwise, you paid the fee.
I paid the VA.
You paid monies to the VAs.
You just ruined my whole evening. Okay.
That's not good.
Hey, you learn something new every day. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
I just love it. I didn't know you didn't know. And I'm going to say this. I'm pretty sure that us three, well, David and I had this conversation before with you there, but you might not have been picking up what we was putting down.
I was probably reading comments, making sure no one's saying anything stupid.
Yeah, probably. So yes. So the bottom line is that to the 70% of you out there or greater with 0% or no rating at all with the VA for disability compensation, it is vital that you have the discussion. You look into it. I will tell you this, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir here. Pretty much, probably everybody who's watching this is service connected already or understands what's going on. But in the event that there's one person out there, there are so many misperceptions with regard to VA disability compensation that it is just unbelievable. And because of that, veterans self-segregate out of it for decades until they get so old and they need so much assistance that there's no other avenue. And then somebody somewhere says, well, hey, you should look at this. and then they go back to the VA and then they figure it out. And then it's the I wish I would have known. And so we really, and that's the whole purpose why I started my channel, was to eliminate the I wish I would have known, right? So to the 70% out there, if you know one of them or you are one of them, really consider filing a claim. File your intent to file, get that in place, and order your service treatment records, and really start to go down that path of filing a claim appropriately. With that, I'll kick it back to you, Clay. Are you still in shock?
I'm still mad that I paid the VA money when I was in the Marine Corps. I bought at least one house.
Well, the first time you use it, it's discounted with 100% financing. It's like 2.15%. But if you use it again, so this is what the misconception comes in, that I ask people all the time, like, when you use your VA loan, do you want to put it? Are you putting any money down? They'll be like, why would I put money down? I'm like, well, there's a reason, right? Especially if you don't have a VA disability. So oftentimes we'll we'll talk through the situation and go, do you want to pay $33,000 or do you want to pay $15,000? Right? It's still not good. And when you put a down payment, it goes lower. So if you do a 5% down payment, it drops. If you do 10% or more, it's another fee. So that's why it's important to understand it, because the VA, in a way, is actually encouraging you to put a down payment after you use it for the first time. But if you're on active duty, you kind of have no choice, because normally if you're on outside of the Guard or Reserve, where you can file for VA disability in between deployments or tours, active duty, you can't do that. So you could be in the Guard for like 2 years, be 100%, and then finish out your 20 years. That's easy. In active duty, you can't do that. You have to wait till your full 20 is up, and then you file for your disability, and then your effective date's your ETS date. So it's a technicality.
I know a dude who he's a friend of mine's friend or whatever. You understand what I'm saying. 90% rated, got out of the Marine Corps, felt like he's just missing something from life, and he went back inactive. And I think he's an idiot. Anyways, personally. But he really there's like I'm gonna, hopefully people don't get mad at this, but I would say there's like 1 or 2% of people in the military who genuinely want to serve. The other 98 are just kind of there. And there's nothing wrong with that too. This dude falls in that 1 or 2%. But he's not 90%, went back active duty. Question for you, David, because he's 90% rated right now. As an active duty Marine, he still maintains it doesn't go away. He just doesn't get paid.
Yep.
Would that active duty service member have to pay a funding fee?
Riddle me that. Clay, of course you had to find a loophole in this whole system, didn't you? So that then you wouldn't pay the VA funding but that's because
rated,
because you're already rated at a 10% or higher rating. So, but this is why it's also important that if you are doing multiple deployments and you are injured, you can go after your first tour, get a rating, and then you're like, oh, I have all these other issues now, and then go the second time and add additional ratings on to get a higher rating, right? So just depending on how you have it structured. But so then in that case, that veteran would not pay the VA funding fee because they already got awarded the service connection. And you can't do it with the proposed letter either. Let me clarify this. So when you're getting off of active duty and you did, let's say, a BBD claim, then you're like, oh, here's what you're going to be getting. You have to wait till you actually ETS for the effective date for your disability.
Yeah. We generally see ratings given prior to your last day in service on like a med board or like an IDES claim, IDES, BDD claims, generally speaking, and I want to say overwhelming majority of the time, are anywhere from like 15 days after service to like 6 months. There's really no rhyme or reason. I mean, we're looking at like national work queue and things like that too. So there's a lot of factors involved. But man, dude, people who aren't rated have to pay the VA to use their VA home loan. Another question for you, and I'm just I'm just diving into this hill. I'm really preparing to make my own video on this topic. Has there been any legislation proposing to get rid of that? Like, is that something people care? I feel like that's wrong. What do you mean I have an honorable and I have to pay the VA to use my own home loan?
Yes. So in 2021, let me take a look at this. Let me pull it up because it's like a long name. Blue Water, Vietnam.
No,
Act.
did they try to rope it into the Blue Water?
Yeah, it's the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act of 2019. Okay, so in that is what basically this bill changed the VA loan in a very positive manner. One, they did reduce VA funding fees by 15 basis points, so 1.15%. And this is where they no limit, which is like a rap song, came into place, right? So if veterans don't have an outstanding VA loan and they're eligible and qualified, you can buy a $10 million crib, super juicy, with zero money down. Okay. So this opened up that program for a lot of folks to be able to really utilize the VA home loan. No limit. Now, again, that's positive and a negative because some people, the VA loan looks at residual income. So like you technically could buy $1 million home and all the VA, and if you're single, the VA just requires you to have like $500 left over every month after all of your expenses and taxes taken out. VA loan's very loose. So you really have to budget yourself and know your credit and budget.
Yeah, we got to get that boat rolling. I do have something for you, Jason. I'll kick it to you and then we can close it out. If David, you'll close it out here soon. But that reminded me, totally segueing here into the major Richard Starr Act. I've had so many comments. I assume it's the same for you, Jason, about what's the update to the Richard Starr Act. I'm going to give it to you straight here. I know I'm a doom and gloom kind of dude. Same thing happened last year. Okay. They tried to pass it. It got slapped in the face. It not just slapped. It was just like, we ain't got time for that. Okay. Like a nothing burger. And then we see Senator Blumenthal, who's like kind of the main dude on that. That's an issue when it comes to this administration, in case anyone's wondering, by the way. Really pushing the Major Richard Starr Act, which that's a fact. You like it or not, that's a factor, especially this year.
Right.
And it didn't work last year, so they tried to rope it under the NDAA, and everyone's like, no, you're an idiot, bye. And so fast forward to this year, they tried to pass it. It was ignored. And let me just be clear. Just because the VFW posts an article on something does not mean it's important, okay? Although they are advocating on the Hill, and that's what they're supposed to do, but the weight they gave it was not reality. Like, the reality is no one cares about the Major Richard Starr Act. Sorry. And when I say no one, I mean non-veterans. And so it got slapped in the face again. They're trying to rope it in NDAA. That's where we're at now, at least to my understanding. Yep. And for those who are hopeful, fine, be hopeful. That's fine. But we're looking at history repeat itself right now. So what do you got?
Right. You know, I'm same kind of boat. It's one of these, you want to be, well, maybe not you. I want to be positive about it and think that it has a chance. But it's every day that goes by and there's still no new news, no new real tangible news, right? Yeah. I just actually recorded a video on an kind of an op-ed piece from somebody talking about the Major Richard Starr Act. And, just to give it some more airplay, look, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't impact me, but I believe in it. And I think that it should happen. And I think that any conversation or thought about how much it costs is irrelevant. That is not even a factor because, in my mind, because it should be implemented. It's, for those that don't know, the super slimmed down version here is for those that were medically retired, not medically discharged, different ball of beans here, or bag of beans, can of beans, whatever. It's those that have been medically retired. So they're receiving a DOD retirement check. And if they receive VA disability compensation, it's just offset dollar for dollar. So they're not really coming out ahead anywhere except for on a little bit of a non-taxed basis, which is, I mean, you're saving nickels. So it's to let those individuals who are medically retired receive both, specifically those that are 50% or higher rated on the disability compensation side, to mirror their 20-year retiree counterpart who's also receiving military retirement. So I think that, the NDAA is a last ditch effort. Again, hope it has to have. What's funny, Clay, is that it's had such strong bipartisan support year over year, right? So here we are again with 70 plus on the Senate, nearly 300 on the House side supporting it. And then when it comes down to the wire, all of a sudden people start turning the other way and pretending it's not there. I think that it should pass. I think that they should get it into the NDAA, but I'm kind of in the same mindset as you that that people need to be louder in the constituencies. You need to be louder in your congressional district. And when I mean louder, I don't mean just you saying it. You got to get your friend, your friend's mom, your cousin, your mom, your brother, your spouse, and everybody needs to be calling your congressional members and telling them that this thing needs to pass. With that, David, I'm going to let you have the last couple words before we go ahead and sign out for everybody. Go ahead and throw out your parting words.
Well, thanks again, guys, for having me on. So just a couple important, I think, good takeaways from today is that, one, don't sit on the sidelines to file for your VA disability because it's getting worse. If you're looking to use your VA home loan, because a lot of veterans are looking to use that beautiful VA home loan, schedule a call with me. Happy to talk through your financial situation. Because what we've been saying now for a while is that when you don't need money, people want to give it to you, but when you need it, they don't. So set yourself up financially. Check out my videos on VA housing education, the way you could educate yourself on the process and other veterans, because people are looking for housing. So thanks again, guys.
Hey,
hold on,
David.
David. What's the what's the outro tagline there?
It's the
you're gonna make him
for the veterans.
No. Oh, what'd you say? What?
A lender for the veterans, is that? Or are you talking about Jason's tagline? If we don't help each other, who will? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah,
good enough.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.